we're going to introduce you to our distinguished panel. Each one of these women have a lot of experience in their own right that we cannot possibly cover. Their biographies are in the conference material, so you can read more about them there if you want to and follow up with them after the fact. I'm sure that each will be happy to provide you contact data. So I'm just going to ask you guys to self-introduce yourselves with your little elevator speech on what you would like the audience to know about you. And I'm going to start with you, Martha, if you're okay with that.
I'm fine. I'm Martha Daniel, and I'm the President and CEO of Information Management Resources Incorporated. We are a cybersecurity, technology, and engineering services company. We've been around for 22 years. We have worked for the U.S. Cybercom, the Department of Defense, the Executive Office of the President, and we continuously work in the cyberspace today, securing many of the things in the defense world. We operate in 12 states, and we are primarily a defense contractor. So 98% of our business is in Intel, with the Intel community as well as the defense community.
Good morning. My name's Maria Suarez, and I'm currently Director of Information Security at the University of Southern California. And I have been in IT for about 20 years. My interest in information security stemmed from when I was working at a Fortune 500 company and was director of internet development. It was the heyday of the .com craze. We were putting up websites, transactions, connected to our legacy systems, and I kept saying that what kept me up at night was privacy and security of the information we were serving up. And so they said, really, go fix it, go take care of it. And there began my career in information security. I see information security as a growing field. I'm very happy to be here to talk about women in information security. We'd like to encourage more, and would make myself available for questions after this, as well as sharing my contact information.
Thank you, Maria. And our second Maria.
Okay, I'm the third of the 3 M's. Good morning. How is everybody? Excellent. So let's see, where do I begin? Don't look at these gray hairs. That's all I have to say. I have a lot of life left in me, and I'm passionate about what I do. But I earned every single one of them in this field. So it's not always easy being a woman in technology in this field, but I will say it's been an extremely rewarding career. Let me just tell you one thing that about me is I started out in non-traditional jobs. So I started out with Bell of Pennsylvania before divestiture, running the machines that would clean the floors. So that's where I started my career, doing maintenance in all the frames in the central offices, and, had a very rewarding career there. But today I'm the president and CEO of the National Cyber Forensics and Training Alliance. So that entity is a public and private entity. It's a nonprofit, but we bring industry, academia, and government agencies together to really fight cybercrime. And that's, in my opinion, you are never going to be bored in this field if you decide to get into cybersecurity, and it's absolutely not going away. Some of the threats, the pendulum has swung from a cybersecurity perspective and not in our favor. The gap has really widened. So I'm very honored to be with the 2 young ladies that I'm here today. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I'll make myself available to talk to you. But cybersecurity is a growing field. There's a growing need. There are not enough people in this space, with the talents that we need to protect our citizens, our country, and our nation. So if you have an interest in cyber, it's absolutely the right field to be in.
Okay, so let's get started. Let me ask you, first of all, in the audience, how many of you already currently work in our field? Okay, and how many students are in the room? Okay, thank you. That's perfectly fine. We're very happy to have you all. So I want to just read the statistic that ISSA says about our field, and it is a report from the Burning Glass Technologies, and this is on our ISSA website. So the demand for information security experts in the U.S. grew 3 times faster than the demand for other IT jobs, and about 12 times faster for all jobs in IT over the past 5 years. And our profession is going to grow more, according to the study from ISC² in 2013. It is projected to continuously grow more than 11% annually over the next 5 years. So for women, and all of us really, not just women, but there is plenty of opportunity. So we want to help address what some of those barriers are. And then you've read the description, and that's why you're here. So we can ask ourselves, you know, is it us? Is it the field? And are there things that we can change to make it better? Because statistically, more and more women are leaving the field. They leave the field. There's like 56% of the people leave the field after they're in the field. Fewer people are entering it, women, are entering the field of IT, technology, and there's fewer people graduating with degrees in the field from technology standpoint. So there's clearly something that's turning it off. So that's what we want to talk about. So we're going to lead off here, if you guys are good with that. So I want to ask the first question. And the way we're going to do this, I'm just going to start some of the questions, and we're going to take audience questions too. We're going to precede a few, and then we'll take some audience questions, and we'll have some at the end as we end up on, you know, on an open discussion at the end that we want to include with is what is one thing for a Women in IT Success Manifesto that you would take forward. So I've moderated several of these women in security panels and women in IT panels, and I've written a couple articles on it, and when I'm asked to, I got my ISSA journal article rejected because it said, why do you do these women in security things? What's different? This all looks the same as anything in the field, so why do you want to do it? So this is what I want to ask the panel. And we're going to work this is one female panelist can take the question, and then we'll move on to another question unless somebody else has a really strong input to that, but we're not going to say all three answer it. Is that okay? So that's what we're going to do here. So my question for you today is, how do women's special interest groups or women in IT groups, because there's several executive groups, help women overcome barriers? So what's the purpose of having them and panels like this?
I'll break the ice.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria.
So, yes, I think they are needed. I think women, by our nature, we are different from men. I also think that culturally there are biases that predetermine whether or not we go into science, math and science fields, which certainly information security and information technology are a part of. And so we need to learn how to work better at presenting ourselves as the get-it-done group. So even in our communication styles and the way that we think is very different. And there are lots of psychological studies and such that show this between boys and girls. There's even a national organization called STEM to encourage girls in science, technology, and math. And so it's recognized that we are different. So I believe that for those of us who get to the stage where we are adults, we do need continued help to network with each other, support each other, encourage each other, give feedback to each other that's open and honest and constructive. So there are various different groups that help us do that today. There are many ways of communicating. Men tend to communicate briefly, succinct, to the point, and women are more nurturers, and so by virtue of that communicate differently. I think those are some of the reasons why we need to have special interest groups to support women in information security and technology and math and science in general.
Thank you. So here's a question on hiring, because at the CISO forum, for ISSA CISO forum, a gentleman was in the group that asked a question about women in security, and it wasn't a women in security thing. So he said it was about diversity. in the company. So maybe we could say it's diversity or not, but how do we increase diversity in hiring when it comes to women in security? But it can be broader than that without going off on it. But how do we do that? How do we increase our diversity in hiring for women in security?
Okay, you may not like my answer.
You can give your answer.
All right.
Careful what you ask for, right?
That's right, exactly. I am a firm believer in diversity, but I'm also a firm believer in talent. You have, especially in security, you can't sacrifice diversity and not have the right person for the job. I also believe that, I came from a family, my mom, 99 years old, can do. My mother we were never allowed to use the word can't. If you have problem-solving skills, if you like, attention to detail, and you have perseverance, because it is a tough field for women, I do believe that, I look for heart. I look for people that have the right attitude, the right heart, and the right desire. Because if you have all those talents and I can teach you the technology. I can teach you the skill sets. You've got to want to do it. And I think women actually, I think women are more detailed. But there are hurdles because you're not going to get a whole lot of help along the way. I worked for Cisco for almost 7 years. I'd go to a conference and I might be 2 out of 900 women in the room. You have to be prepared for that. And you're going to have to stand up and you're going to have to know your technology. You're going to have to know what you're talking about. And I think we can all do that. So the only barrier is you. But if you have the willingness, the desire, I think it's the right thing. I'm not going to hire a woman just to hire a woman, though. I believe in diversity, but I also believe in the right person for the right job.
Okay, so you're not supportive of diversity in hiring. That. No, I'm just for diversity, for having a program where you have a program where you hire more women in the field. That's okay. It's not meant anyway, because there's a whole, if Marianne Davidson were sitting up there, she would just say, grow some balls and talk about you or something like that. But
I don't believe that that's what diversity programs really are. It's just hiring people just because of diversity. But to say, I've been in technology for a very long time. I started in technology in 1970. And so you could believe there were no women around. I was also in technology in the U.S. Navy. In cryptology, there were no women. And so it's not about just being a woman in the field. I agree totally with Maria. You have to have confidence that you can do a job. You have to have a desire to do the job. I think over the years, back in the early 80s, when there were very few people in technology, a lot of the corporations, ARCO specifically where I worked, hired a lot of people that came with any type of degree. It didn't matter. They would train you to technology, and they were extremely successful with that. But what happened in that marketplace where women jumped into the field, it was very demanding. And when we say demanding, it becomes a balance between having to decide your lifestyle, your children, your family, to the lifestyle of being a technologist. But that has changed because a lot of virtual work has changed. And so when we ran the women away between the 90s because of the workload that IT people had, they began to move away from this profession. And so now today, when we talk about hiring women and diversity, it is a mere fact that in my company that I own, we have about 12% of women. It's not because they aren't there. 28% of women, the workforce has 50% of all the workforce are women. 28% of their workforce happen to be technologists. But the key is that the market is changing. The ability to be able to work at home, even the government. So it allows you to be able to balance your life. So I think that in the mere fact of desires, women who entered the field have been extremely successful. And we have 2 women presidents. IBM just hired a female president. Yahoo has one. So women can do the job. It's, again, about the desire and understanding that you can balance your life in this sort of profession.
Okay, thank you very much. So Here's a question that's a little bit off of the hot button question, but I still want to ask that because other people ask these questions and they come up. So to jumpstart a stalled security career, and even though this is red hot, I know many people that are stalled or are unemployed right now, or you get on a cusp. So what one action would you take immediately and why? And I'm going to leave it to you guys to pick if you want to take it.
I'll start with that. To jumpstart it from the beginning where you...
A stalled career. Not a beginning. To jumpstart a stalled career.
A stalled career.
Security career. What one action?
Where you have not, where you're already in your career. The first thing is to move into cyber. That's the first thing. Start looking at that. There is absolutely not enough people in the cybersecurity. So if you're stalled and you're in security today, it would behoove you to begin to advance yourself in a little bit of education and try to internship or span yourself around in cyber. Understand that is definitely a marketplace that if you have the background in security, as Maria said, you can be trained for the rest of it if you have the desire and the will to move into that field.
You guys have any burning questions at this point, but we want to throw an audience question out there at this point. Just a second. While you get your question ready, let me ask another question while I bring the mic. What would you say are the extreme risk factors regarding women's security careers?
Risk factors.
Yeah. And then we'll take the mic to her while you guys answer that one, or someone does, if that's okay. It was you that
Actually,
it's not on. You can turn it on when you go to talk.
So I don't really see there being any risk factors. The only risk factor is your own limitation on yourself. I do think balancing, that your work-life balance, having families, typically, women are the ones that are expected to take care of the children. So I do think that is probably one of the risks, is that you're probably going to spend more time studying, working, learning the technology yourself so that you get better and better at what you do, because you're going to have to be extremely good. And I have seen, in my past where there are people that will not help you, and they're going to tell you the wrong answer. And they're going to make you figure it out on your own. But I tell you what, once you prove that you can do it and that you're going to do it very well, people gravitate towards you. So I think I really don't see a risk other than your family and probably spending a lot more time proving yourself than others might.
And also, along with the family thing, I do see women in IT drop out sometimes when they have kids, and it's hard to make that gap up, although it's not insurmountable, but it is hard to make up the gap. Okay.
I have can I
yes.
tackle to that? I have
yes.
an old saying. I'm a golfer, and when I first started to golf, I was a little intimidated because it was always defined as this male game. But as I began to golf, I realized that they were looking for their balls just like I was looking for mine. And so, okay? And so in the field of technology, I use that same analogy. They're going to be trying to figure it out just like you're trying to figure it out. And so if you do your job and you do it well, and you just do your job and not be worried about what the other person, the male or the gender of the other person, you just do your job well, you always succeed. It's no different in any other job that you do, whether it's motherhood, whether it's being a retail clerk. But once you learn your profession, be good at it, be confident in it, okay? And when you step out, I'm not afraid of anyone. In the military, I was the only woman.
I'll bet, yeah.
I was the only woman in Winter Harbor, Maine. The only woman.
Thank you.
I had no confidence, no issue at all. So it's about confidence.
And you don't seem to be lacking confidence, which is true of all three women. Thank you very much.
I have one other tip for everybody. If you can off the first tee, if you hit it further than they do, you won.
Okay.
That's good.
So here's my question for you. I am currently a recruiter by day. I used to come from IT, and I actually left in the 90s for the same reasons that everyone was talking about. Companies don't have enough staff to fill them up. And companies always talk about how they would want to train and continue the training, but no one is actually taking that ownership.
No, they don't.
And no one is really taking that bringing in the interns, bringing in technologists, and converting them to information security. What do you guys think about how companies should approach that to solve the problem?
To do what we're saying we can do or will do. Thank you.
Well, globalization killed that. That was the approach that America as a country approached our workforce in the 80s, okay? We trained, and since we've had globalization, we've done a lot of differences as far as training. So getting back to the basics, yes, corporations should do that, but we still as a country live by a bottom line and the stock market. And so because of that, they're just not doing it. And so the question is, how do you get them to do that again? There has to be some incentives from as far as tax incentives. Talk to your Congress people. That's where the change is going to happen, to influence more training and bringing interns into the corporation and more training as it relates to our field. It just has to happen. Politically, it's going to help that happen.
Thank you. Okay, I have a question on
Debbie.
salary. I'm sorry.
I'd like to add something.
Yes.
I think we also need to take some individual ownership of this issue. And if all else fails, because I do agree with what Martha said, you will need to find a way to self-fund the training that will get you to the next level. I really believe it is tax deductible. I think that there are lots of online training programs. Be careful. You don't want to just sit through a PowerPoint presentation and, having paid a lot of hundreds of dollars, just for that. You want something, so research what you choose. But pick a class. Pick something that is interesting to you, that is related maybe to where you want to go in terms of your next step, and or what you see could be an opportunity within the company you're working at now, that it will take you to the next level. Not because you ran around saying, I took this training course, but because your knowledge, you will bring that knowledge that you've added into the workplace, into your job, and you will get ahead that way. So that's just another thought.
You have a question here?
Thank you. Just a follow-up to the training question. For people who's already working, we can get promotions or move to another department. But what we can say to someone who's going to start in info security and see a job posting that asks for people with virtualization skill, having a CCNA or CCNP that do OSPF, ERP that do web security. So job posting now have like 20 requirements. So if someone asks, where do I start? What would you say?
I think that there's a difference, right? There's a big difference. It depends. Do you want to be a network security engineer? Or do you want to be a risk manager? Or do you want to be, do you want to be information security? Do you want to be fraud? Do you want to be investigations? I think there's a number of different careers, that you can approach and go down a path with security. So first determine what do you want to do. Because taking a CCNA class is not going to help you with risk management. So decide what you want to do and then start. I mean, everyone recognizes CCNA. Everyone recognizes SANS courses and trainings. If you want to get, depending on what you want to do and how you want to do it, CISSP. I mean, it's not really it's technical, but it's not hands-on. So just first figure out what you want to do and where's your sweet spot, where's your passion, and I think both these ladies will say you got to follow that passion, because then your probability of being successful is far greater. But decide that first, and if you know that, we can talk to you about what direction to go in.
And if you need help in that passion or what direction to go to for you or somebody else, ask other people that are in the field. And frankly, ISSA is a good way to meet those people that are in the field too and get some of these referrals. Even for recruiting, Karen over here that has been a member a long time, that's where the people go to find security practitioners. They go to the people that are on the board in these trade groups. Okay, so thank you. I want to ask you another question here. What is the top tip you would share for successful salary negotiation for women in our field? I mean, several people tell me that men negotiate for salary, but women don't. They just go, okay. So do you have a top tip that you would share with other women for salary negotiation?
Don't be the first to give a number. Ask what the range is. That's
a good
my
one.
number one tip, and my father taught it to me. In all negotiation, regardless of what you're doing, the one who first gives the number is at a disadvantage.
Market research. I'm going to add that one because it's a great opportunity to say that.
And
And don't follow up with, if you don't mind me saying this, because this makes me cry every time. And particularly,
Karen, I need you to stop and speak into the mic. I'm so sorry. Because this is recorded too, so people can listen to it after the fact. It's on. I turned it on. Thank you.
so I would say, and I apologize for jumping in because this has been a pet peeve of mine. Find out what the research says. Find out what the median salaries are before you go into it. And I'm sure, Jen, you know the same thing. And then they ask you how much. If you want to say it. But don't say anything after. Typically, I'll have people come in and say, oh, I want $120,000, but I'll take less for this job. Wow, hold on. I didn't even get a chance to respond. So please, don't do that.
And my tip would be is that you should, after you do your research, people have a tendency to want to base your compensation on what you made at your previous job. We do ask for that on the application, but you should not necessarily negotiate from what you made on your last job. You should negotiate from what the market and what the demand is for the job that you're going after and what you want to be paid for that change and for that move. A lot of times we women have a tendency to negotiate inferiorly. Okay, well, you're leaving a job and they're trying to hire you. Okay, think about it for a moment. You own a job and they're trying to hire you. If you're not on a job and you're looking for one, you still want market value. You may settle for a little less if you've been out of the marketplace longer than probably the norm, but, and have some reason for that being absent. But if you feel that your market and your work, ask for what you want, and then they'll start backing you down, and then you start negotiating. We do it all the time.
Thank you. I know sometimes, I don't know, I see a lot of people just don't really put time into it at all. The knowing the market is an excellent one too, the knowing what the market is for your pay. So that's frequently asked right in a first interview, so what do you want for pay? And he's like, then you just mark yourself out. In fact, a CTO that's on the market in Arizona just asked that. Yes, you had a question? You need to step up here. Has to be on the mic.
While you're walking,
It's a question, though, not a comment, right?
while you're walking, one other thing, know that right
Thank
now,
you. It's on.
people in cybersecurity, insecurity, there's a demand. So know that.
Hi, I'd like to talk to you about a pipeline issue. I teach computer information systems out at Cal Poly Pomona. Cal Poly Pomona, in general, the student population is more than 50% women. In our CIS program, it's 10 to 15%. It's clear that we have to start younger than college in order to get more women going into the field. We're hosting our first Cyber Girls Camp at Cal Poly July 12th with LAUSD.
Good job.
And we'd love to have a few of you come out for the camp. We're going to have a women in cyber panel and networking lunch, and it's the first one we're doing, but I can see us doing more in the future. Thank you.
I am a Cal
Thank
Poly
you very much.
graduate. And from the CIS department. I was also the chair of the board of advisors for the School of Business for Cal Poly. So I am excited about it. And at the time, there were lots of women at Cal Poly, and he is absolutely right. A lot of women come out of that college.
Thank you. Thank you. And may I say that if other people have other programs like this where you're looking for support from women like these or other women that are in this room, contact the chapter for ISSA. They will support it. They will get the support you need. They have the contacts for what you need. So thank you very much for that input. Okay, so I'm just going down to see which ones because we're going to open it up. How can women leverage their networks for increased results in their personal and professional lives? Are you guys okay with the questions I'm asking? These are the kind of ones I get, so I'm hoping you're okay with them. But we'll open it up.
Well, I think it's like anything else. It's sometimes, it's you have to talk to people. You have to talk to people. You have to express, your passions. You have to express your talents, and then perhaps it's not even that person that's in technology, but they know somebody. But if you can be introduced, a soft introduction to somebody is always better than, I would prefer somebody make a recommendation to me about the candidate that I'm going to interview versus me just, I put a resume out there, or HR does, and then, you get a candidate. Because there is so much information out there about interviewing that, people can say what they want you to believe and what they think they want you to say. But if I know somebody or somebody makes a recommendation, usually you're not going to make a recommendation unless you really believe in that person or you think they have a talent. So talk to people, get to know people. I know sometimes it's very, very uncomfortable, but it's very, very important to network. Guys do it all the time. There's no reason why women can't. And don't just network with women. When you go around and walk some of these companies, you see FireEye here, you see CrowdStrike, you see a lot of technical companies. Go talk to those folks. Get to know them. You never know.
And I love the fact that she mentioned, don't just network with women, please. I understand that you need to network with a lot of the men that are in the field. You'll learn a lot about the field as well. You'll learn how to interact with them as well. And I absolutely agree that it's all about relationships. It's all about relationships. That's what it's all about. And so if you're looking for jobs, or you're trying to get contracts, or you're trying to grow your business, or you're trying to move your career, it is still all about relationships.
Thank you. I run into quite a few people from Intel, and I worked for Intel for 20 years, and then people lose their job, or they left in a buyout, and they come back, and this happened with HP too, and they're not networked at all. They haven't done a thing because they felt comfortable where they were, and they don't even seem to know how to job hunt today. So you can wait until you need it to get it, but it's so much easier to have your pipeline already in place. Now, I'm from Phoenix, so I know some of the people on the LA chapter here, but people say to me, and I'm on the international board, oh, you can talk to anybody because you're an extrovert. I am an extrovert, but I'm a one-to-one relationship builder. I don't work the room. If you come into a room where I am, I'm going to be meeting who I'm sitting next to. That's probably what I'm going to be doing. I'm not going to be saying, oh, I've talked to you long enough, time for me to go meet the next person. I don't ever do that. So anyway.
Yeah. So I have one comment. Mm-hmm. I agree you should not limit your networking to just women, but there is a lot of benefit from looking at women's groups like this session here at this conference, Executive Women's Forum. There's a wonderful book called Stiletto Network that I recommend you all read. I forget the name of the author, but it really helps you appreciate and inspires. And this is what we need sometimes when we're so stretched thin managing our careers, our personal lives. That set of women that you network with, that you reach out to, that maybe you choose as one of your mentors. And again, it shouldn't be just women. You do need to network with everyone because it is about relationship building. May support you in a way that other people can't. So you make your connections, you build your relationships based upon what's important to you and what you need in your life. So just a thought. We talked about diversity earlier, but there's diversity of thought here needed as well in terms of networking.
Thank you. A lot of women do say that they come and they network with women, and it shouldn't be just women, and it isn't for any of us usually, is that it makes you feel so, oh, other people have this issue too, or whatever. So you don't feel quite as isolated by having a network. So what about and this is an article that was recently published, and it was published in April in an association magazine, the rise of the returnship for these women in transition as a way for women to re-enter the workforce. Or is there any of you that have thoughts on that? They called it a returnship. So it's not like an internship, but it's like that. I've worked with some of the people who have been out of the workforce for a while.
You know what? I was out of the workforce. I decided to stay home for 10 years with my children.
Oh, so you're perfect.
And so I found it very disheartening that despite the fact that I had a college degree in mathematics and a minor in computer science, that nobody would let me or give me a job, and that what I was getting was receptionist job or assistant's jobs. And any job that's an honest job is a respectful job, but I really felt I had skills and that I had kept up with those skills during the 10 years by tutoring other students. And so decided to apply for a master's program. My strategy, and this is a very personal story, but it worked, which is to go for a master's in computer information systems. And after 2 semesters of that, at night, I was not working full time, so I had 1 year under my belt. Then I started to look for a job again, and I had lots to talk about in terms of my projects for school, and networked with other students who were professionals who had full-time jobs during the day that came to class at night going for their master's just like I was. And so I was able to overcome that perception that I was a mommy returning to the workforce. And so I encourage you again, we've said this a lot, training, education, networking. These are still the basics that apply for a lot of these challenges that we face.
Thank you. Okay, so what is the next big game changer for women in security? And how do we get ourselves ahead of the curve? And that's our last formal question.
I have a thought here that's really out of the box. So I think that forensics is a hugely maybe disconnected field from the rest of information security. It's very highly specialized. It requires extreme knowledge of technology. It has been male dominated like the rest of technology and information security for years. I think it's underrated. I think forensics is about to be understood, and I'm looking at you, Maria, for help on this, but you tell me, please, if I'm wrong, because my vision is that it's not going to be used just for after-the-fact investigation. In other words, you had a breach, something already happened in the past, and now the forensics team is pulled in to say, well, what happened, right? I think that will continue to grow. And I think that there's another aspect of forensics that's going to be looking a bit more proactive due to the advanced persistent threats. Those phone calls that go to the help desk that say, you know, my computer performance is bad. I went into Microsoft Word. There's some funky thing going on and asking me if I need to change the template. And I didn't do anything with my Microsoft Word template, so I don't know what this is all about. And the typical help desk level 1 response is, okay, we'll get an engineer out there. And what do? They re-image the computer, or, oh my gosh, your computer's 3 years old, you need a new one, you know, and so that's it. When we don't realize that those things that are perceived as performance or inconveniences are truly the beginning of a setup for a lot of other inappropriate access, fraudulent activity, you know, and getting into that computer, controlling that computer, and using it to pivot to other computers, and it jumps around like a little jumping bean that stays low and slow and does not go detected until, oh my gosh, we have a data exfiltration, and maybe they succeeded, maybe they didn't, because maybe you had enough technology to stop the data exfiltration on the way out. In any case, when you go back and you start to look at some of the forensic view of some of the computers that may have been identified as being involved, you find that this is something that has been in the works, being set up over a longer period of time.
Okay, so to wrap up what you're saying, so we can...
Forensics, I think, the role of forensics will increase more and more and more over the next coming years to help us with analysis of malware.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think that the market is moving towards more managed service cyber security. That's where we will begin to see a change and an evolution of of a consolidation of service bureau type companies that will formulate to be able to provide various different cybersecurity type of services for companies that do not all companies have the expertise internally to do it. And so we begin to see more of that will be coming to the market. The market is also moving to more of defense cyber. We've been on you came in, I know you're in, and now you messed up something. We are now doing more of the defensive, in other words, setting mines and more preventative type mechanisms for being able to deal with the intrusions from the beginning, and then the analysis of that after while you're in my environment, I can protect you from going to my heart. So for example, you get a disease, I may stop you right here in my shoulder, you will not attack my heart. And so that's what we call a little bit more of the defensive cyber. So you'll see a lot more of that and products and solutions that are coming out in that manner. But the overall marketplace is moving into more of managed service for cybersecurity.
Thank you. Okay.
I have an opinion on this one too.
Okay.
Imagine that.
Just brief, so we have to.
Brief. This is going to be long. I agree with both what Maria and with what Martha said, but I also think it's data analytics. I think it's taking the information that you get from your forensics, that what's happening in your logs, knowing what's going on your environment, having a benchmark, already knowing what should be in your environment and what shouldn't, gathering all that intelligence, all that information, and then doing analytics on it. What are they doing? How are they doing it? Why are they doing it? So whether it's an advanced persistent threat or just somebody that really, it's not a nation state attack, it's really somebody that wants your intellectual property and your trade secrets. Predictive analytics is critical. Everybody wants to know what's next. And, to your point about defense, that's great. And information sharing, why do you think everybody wants to share? But what information do you want to share? It's not just, fraud. It's not just investigations. It's threats. It's vulnerabilities. It's indicators. If we can, so it's knowing what's coming and putting up your defense, but knowing if the forensics on your network, they're all critical. But I think data analytics, being able to do predictive analytics and telling people what's going to happen, or at least give them indicators, I think is key.
Thank you very much. Okay, questions? You have questions that you feel? Does I have a good conclusion question for all of us? Okay, so let me summarize, and you can ask a question. What I heard, kind of, at a high level, is it's on you, it's on us to take responsibility for our career in security and in IT. And I heard education, training, networking, and that you can, for re-entry particularly, that you might have to go over your next level of education. Certifications included in that. Not to just network with women, to network with men too, and to get out there. I will tell you, for the female panelists here, I get speakers all the time for the conference for Phoenix, and I've done several conferences for other things, and women generally don't submit to be speakers, so if you're speakers and have some expertise to share, you don't have to be a speaking expert, you just have to know what you're talking about. And I don't see women step up for that. It's not that we're lazy, we're busy. You usually have to go get women, and I always go get women. But if I don't, then they don't come, So I'm going to ask one more question here. Do you have a question before I go get the last question? And you have one too? Yes. Okay. Just
very quickly, realizing what happened with the Target breach and whatnot, and we had a woman CSO who did step down. How do we change the mindset of those who are thinking women in leadership in positions such as a security position, and then how do we change that mindset of, oh no, it's a woman, look what happened?
I'm going to take that one because I've been intimately involved. In fact, the NCFDA, Target sits with us. So one thing that I want to say to everybody in this room, of all the companies out there, Target had tried to do all the right things. Their values, their morals, their character, the way they give back, exceptional company. There are a lot of companies out there that are compromised that haven't announced. And I don't think anyone looked at that and said, when the CSO stepped down, because their CEO stepped down too. So nobody looked at that and said, oh, it was a woman. I really don't think, I never heard that once. And I'm with the people that are, in the trenches, looking at what's happening across the internet, who's doing what to whom, and then figuring out how do we know where they are, what they're doing, and then build a better case to make it actionable so law enforcement can go out and make arrests. Never happened. I never heard one person say anything about a woman. So don't let people, taint your vision at all, because you know what? Sometimes you have to look at the political aspect of it too, right? Sometimes somebody has to be the fall guy. So I don't know. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I don't think it was indicative of male or female. That can be anyone. It's not when. It's not if it's going to happen. It's when.
And they just get publicized. That's all it is. You wouldn't believe the number of companies that are hit. I mean, every single day. You just don't. It just doesn't come out as loud as that situation.
More of a comment. Not a long one, I hope. No, very short. I'm very short-winded. Very short. No, I was just thinking, what can women do? And we have a lot of great women leaders in the cybersecurity field as well as in the audience, I'm sure. And what I was just thinking, my good friend Dr. Dan Manson, sitting back there from good old Cal Poly, who I'm a big fan of. Great idea, maybe more outreach and mentoring of young ladies coming up, like in high school and the schools into this field. Maybe that's what we need, So just a comment. Is that short?
Yeah, that was very short.
Excellent. Great job.
So here is the concluding question for you all, and you're welcome to pitch in your 2 cents here. What one thing would you put on what you know or what you heard today for a Woman in IT Success manifesto? If you were going to create a manifesto for women in IT success, what would you put on it?
One thing?
Anything. It doesn't have to be only one. It could be your one, your one, your one, your one. Yeah. What would you put on it?
Based on what we say, what do you think?
Yeah.
Based on your
What do you
feelings,
think? What did you hear? Pardon? No fear. So no fear. What? Confidence. What else? Talent. Contribute. Can do the job. Is that what you said? Thank you. I'm repeating it for the recording. Passion. Thank you. What else? Be strong. Thank you. What else? Perseverance. I mean, I never would have dreamed Maria had to re-enter the workforce after 10 years. I know that she would have a tough time, though. What else? Education. So, thank you. What else?
Yes.
Don't limit yourself. No limits. And what was your input? Educate, and once you reach the point where you want it to be, start training. Training others or yourself? Training others. Excellent input. Thank you. Some of my best networking is through teaching, facilitating not just the panels, but things with other people, like the CISM for ISSA-LA. Yes?
Know yourself and life balance.
Know yourself, 1. Life balance, 2. What else? Smile? Sometimes? Yeah. You mean we're too serious? That's a great one. Thank you. What else? Focus. Innovate? Yeah, I'd love to see more women in the product development space.
Reinvent yourself. If you don't
Reinvent yourself. Excellent.
Because you can do it.
Anything else? You can't always trust. Okay, so you can't always trust the answer you get from someone else. So how would you translate that into a positive for the manifesto?
Trust but verify.
Trust
there
but verify.
You go.
Looking like a true security person. Anything else before we conclude?
I'm going to say something. Imagine me saying something again.
The
Hey,
panelists
so
are here
you
for.
also have an opportunity to influence, right? So influence. You know, whether you know a niece, you know, you have kids, you've got to tell them they can do it. They're unlimited potential. You know, I mean, it is important that you continue to encourage other people and let them know that, you know what, and if you're doing this and you want to do a buddy system, you know, if somebody else is studying, somebody else is getting their education, do it with somebody else. But influence and tell other people that they can, tell your kids they can, get started early with telling them they can. And, you know, and I think we need to start in high school to get more women involved in technology too.
Get connected. Do your networking. Anything else? Okay, we're going to wrap up and conclude. Thank you all for your time, and thank you to our distinguished panelists. Very welcome. Appreciate your time.